You know that feeling? Your dashboard lights up with that dreaded check engine light, and your heart just sinks a little bit. It's a moment of pure, what now? But what if you could go from confused to confident in just a few minutes? Well, let's dive in, because today we are decoding one very specific and very important trouble code.
So you've plugged in a scanner, or maybe your mechanic did, and this is the code that stared back at you, P06DD. This is probably why you're here, right? So let's break down exactly what your car is trying to tell you.
So what does stuck off actually mean? Well, in simple terms, a lot of modern engines, we're talking many Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and GM vehicles, they use this clever two-stage oil pump to be more efficient. It's got a low-pressure mode for just cruising around town and a high-pressure mode for when you really put your foot down. This code means the pump is stuck in that low gear, that low-pressure setting, and it's not kicking into high pressure when the engine's computer is telling it to.
And this is why this is not a code you want to just ignore. See, proper oil pressure is literally the lifeblood of your engine. When it's too low for too long, especially under load, critical parts just don't get the lubrication they need. And the end result, it can be catastrophic and, trust me, very, very expensive engine damage.
But don't worry, we've got a clear plan to figure this out. We'll start with the code itself, then we'll check all the obvious stuff. After that, we'll dig into some of the deeper potential faults, walk through how a pro would diagnose it, and wrap it all up with the absolute best fix, prevention. All right, let's start our diagnostic journey. Now, the first rule of troubleshooting anything, really, is to always check the simplest and cheapest solutions first. It's hands down the best way to solve a problem without throwing a bunch of time and money at it.
And what's kind of wild is just how basic the most common causes for this code are. First, just check your dipstick. Is the oil level low, or is the oil itself just old, sludgy, and gross? Gunked up oil can clog the very parts that control the pressure. Second, is it the right oil? If you use an oil that's thicker than what the manufacturer calls for, you can trigger this exact problem. And finally, and listen up because this one is a biggie, the oil filter. Using a cheap, off-brand filter that doesn't meet the OEM specs is a surprisingly common reason for that P06DD code to pop up.
And this just nails the point home. For a huge number of people who see this code, the fix is as simple as doing a proper oil and filter change. Before you start thinking about major mechanical failures, this is always, and I mean always, step one. It's the most effective thing you can do right out of the gate.
Okay, so what if you did the oil change, you used all the right parts, you cleared the code, but that pesky light came right back on? What's next? Well, now we have to start looking at the deeper mechanical and electrical systems that could be causing the issue.
This is where it gets a bit more involved. The problem could be the oil control solenoid. That's the little electronic switch that tells the oil where to go. It could be stuck or clogged. You could just have a bad oil pressure sensor that's feeding the computer bad info. It could be a wiring problem, or maybe the oil pump itself is actually on its way out. And finally, you might have serious engine sludge blocking the internal oil passages. Think of it like clogged arteries inside your engine. Not good.
Now, when you're faced with all these possibilities, you don't just start guessing and replacing parts. A good mechanic follows a logical, step-by-step process to pinpoint the real cause without wasting your time or your money.
And here's that path. You'll notice step one is exactly what we already talked about, because that's what the pros do first too. If that doesn't fix it, they move to step two, a careful visual inspection of all the related wiring and connectors. Then they'll use a scan tool to actually command the solenoid on and off to see if it's working. And if all of that checks out, they move to the final definitive test in step 4. And this right here is the moment of truth. A mechanic will unscrew the electronic oil pressure sensor and temporarily hook up a good old-fashioned mechanical pressure gauge. This lets them see a side-by-side comparison, what the computer thinks the pressure is versus what the pressure actually is. If the mechanical gauge shows good pressure but the scan tool shows low, you know you've got a bad sensor or a wiring issue. If they're both low, then you know you have a real mechanical problem.
So what's good pressure? Well, it definitely varies between engines, but a typical healthy reading that a mechanic might be looking for is somewhere around 50 psi, or about 3.5 bar, once the engine is warmed up and running at a normal speed.
And hey, here's a fantastic pro tip for you. With the engine completely off, there should be zero oil pressure, right? If you look at your scan tool data and the oil pressure sensor is showing any reading at all, especially a high one, it's almost guaranteed that the sensor itself has failed. It's a great little shortcut.
So we've covered how to diagnose and fix the problem, but the ultimate goal is to never see this code in the first place. And that brings us to the most important part of all, prevention and long-term engine health.
Does this look a little familiar? It should. Your best defense against this code is a super simple wellness plan for your engine. Always use the exact oil viscosity that your manufacturer recommends. Never ever cheap out on the oil filter. Use an OEM part or an equivalent high-quality one. And of course, stick to your vehicle's oil change schedule like glue. So here's the bottom line, the crucial point. That simple, routine maintenance isn't just a chore. It's the single most powerful and cost-effective tool you have in your arsenal. It's what keeps those oil passages clean, keeps all the parts working freely, and keeps your engine running healthy for years, saving you a world of headaches and money down the road.
Which really leaves us with one last thought to chew on. When you think about the potential cost of a major engine repair, we're talking thousands of dollars. It really makes you wonder, could a simple $50 oil change actually be the best engine insurance money can buy?